iBarristerschambers.com. In this video, I'll be dealing with adult student visas under Tier 4 of the points-based system. The information in the video is correct at the time of recording, June 2014, but changes affect UK immigration law all the time, so it's really important to check the requirements of the immigration rules or talk to an immigration lawyer before applying. Visas are issued under this category only to students who want to study with Home Office approved education providers, or sponsors as they're called by the rules. You have to obtain a visa or entry clearance before you come to the UK, and in order to do that, various items of specified information and evidence have to be provided to support the application. The requirements of this visa category come from the immigration rules, and in particular Part 6A of those rules, Rule 245ZT to Rule 245ZY. You'll find the immigration rules in full and guidance on the Home Office website. In order to sponsor international students, education providers must be licensed by the Home Office. To do that, they have to be subject to a number of requirements. For example, they have to submit to inspections, they must employ staff responsible for compliance with sponsorship duties like maintaining copies of student passports and contact details and providing information about students to the Home Office. But as a student, you don't really have to worry too much about those requirements. What is important is that you ensure that your sponsor is and remains on the register, which is maintained by the Home Office and available on its website. The requirements relating to general student visas are set out in the immigration rules, and as I say, you can find those rules on the Home Office website. The requirements are set out in several different categories. For example, sponsorship, maintenance, in other words money, English language proficiency, and the requirement to be a genuine student. Additionally, the immigration rules set down general grounds for refusal of entry clearance, none of which should apply to you. Have a look at those general grounds. If any do apply, then you need to do something about that before making the application, because it will be refused otherwise. Having identified an appropriate licensed sponsor within the UK, you should then apply for and be accepted for studies with that sponsor. To do that, you'll have to persuade them that you're competent in the English language. This is assumed if you're from or have studied to a certain level in a recognised majority English-speaking country. Otherwise, you may have to take a test. The sponsor will then issue a confirmation of acceptance for studies, or a CAS. This is an e-registration on a Home Office database, not a paper certificate, and you'll be given a unique reference number for that CAS. Each CAS is valid for 6 months, and it can be used only once. Your visa application should be made no more than 3 months before the date specified on the CAS as the course start date. Once you've come to the UK on the basis of a particular CAS issued by a particular sponsor, it's not possible to change education institutions without permission from the Home Office, and that permission is only given on the basis of a fresh CAS from a new education provider. The student must submit various other items of documentary evidence with the application, showing that the requirements of the rules have been satisfied, and such evidence is specified in paragraph 120 SD to Appendix A to the immigration rules. It's essential to include the correct specified documents with the application, as it will be refused otherwise, and appeals cause significant delay and can even mean you miss the course start date. Nationals of certain specified countries may not have to produce supporting documents. Have a look at Appendix H to the immigration rules to see if that applies to you. Home Office specifies certain requirements of the course which the student will be studying in the UK. Generally, it must be a full-time course and lead to, for example, a UK recognised bachelor's degree or higher, or a course from an overseas higher education provider which is recognised as being on the same level. Visas can also be obtained for qualifications below bachelor's level. Have a look at the iBarristerschambers.com website for details of those types of courses. The required sums for maintenance are set out in the immigration rules, but you'll have to show that you have sufficient funds to live and study in the UK for the relevant period. Although students are allowed to undertake some work whilst in the UK, You can't take that into consideration when calculating the money available to you. Monies which have already been paid to the sponsor for course fees, however, are taken into consideration if the relevant evidence is provided. The required sums, as I say, they're set out in the immigration rules, but they're subject to change, so you must make sure you check them at the time the application is submitted. The amount required depends, for example, on the length of the course, the fees, and the sponsor's location within the UK. There are various specific requirements as to the form of these funds, cash, the period for which they must have been held by you, the student, or on your behalf, and also there are requirements as to the evidence required to show those things. These requirements are applied very strictly, so great attention must be given to those factors when you're preparing to make the application. The entry clearance officer must make an assessment of whether an applicant is a genuine student, and in doing that they'll consider such matters as immigration history, educational history, stated post-study plans, and ties and prospects in your country of origin. Visas are granted for the full length of the course plus an additional post-course period, and the length of the post-course period varies according to the course. At the time of recording, generally courses of less than 6 months lead to an additional 1 month. Courses between 6 and 12 months lead to an additional 2 months, and a course lasting 12 months or more would lead to an additional 12 months leave to remain in the UK. Different rules apply to some specific courses. Again, have a look at the iBarristerschambers.com website for details of those courses. Similar requirements apply to applications to extend a visa for further study. There may be different maintenance requirements for those applications, and for full details have a look at iBarristerschambers.com website. Students are generally allowed to take paid work in addition to their studies. They can work full-time in vacations, but there are maximum hours imposed during periods of study, and the maximum will depend on the course you're doing, but for the most part it's 20 hours a week. You will not be allowed to engage in self-employment. You'll find a number of conditions will apply to the visa. These will include prohibitions against recourse to UK public funds or benefits, working beyond the limits specified in your visa, and study at institutions other than the sponsor's institution. There, for some students, may be requirements to register with the police as well. Some members of some Tier 4 students' families are permitted to join them in the UK for the period of their study. This is allowed if a student is sponsored by a higher education institution on an NQF level 7 or above course of 12 months or more, or if the student is government sponsored on a course of longer than 6 months. Permission may be granted for spouses, civil partners and other partners, and children under 18 years old. Visas have to be applied for, but they will be issued as a matter of course if the requirements, including the additional maintenance requirements, are satisfied. And I should say students' families are also allowed to work. Finally, once in the UK, students are allowed to switch to other categories of visa whilst in the UK. For example, an entrepreneur visa. Have a look at the employment and business page of the iBarristerschambers.com website for more details. I hope this has helped. If you want more information, have a look at the Home Office website or iBarristerschambers.com website, or give us a call.